So the library is the very best place to start work on your class research project. When you are assigned projects to do for classes, whether it's a business class or counseling or HR or any of the other areas that we offer at Amberton, the library is the place where all the collected history and research and discoveries that have been made in the past are stored. And it's a great place to find out what people have written about and what people have taught about and what people have found from the past. So one of the things that's really great about research is that um, we already do some things in our life that are very similar to how research works, because research is a process. It's both a noun and a verb. um, you research and then you perform research. It's kind of one of those kind of words that is an action, but it is also a product. And in a way, it's a little bit like making a really great dinner for somebody that you love, or maybe you can think of putting together a jigsaw puzzle, finding all the pieces and where they fit. That's very similar to the research process. And there's several steps. I put some very casual uh, steps that I've listed over on the left-hand side of this slide um, to kind of guide you through what the general steps would be for a research project. And again, whether it's a personal project or if it's one for class. But the librarians at Amberton and also the librarians at any library you interact with in the future, they're trained researchers. They have master's degrees. Some of them have more degrees than just the library masters. And they've done graduate level research. They've looked through the old dusty volumes and those kinds of things to try and find bits of information here or there that can be pulled into a project or pulled into a research paper. So the number one priority that we have in the library at Amberton is to help you find answers and resources for your questions, for your projects, and for your problems that you may experience. If you haven't been here yet, let me encourage you to bookmark this website, library.amberton.edu. It is a new website that we have had now for about 6 months, maybe a little longer. But what we did was ask the university if we could move the library materials and resources from the university's main website onto our own so that students can hop onto the library website and find everything they need directly without having to swim through the, hey, register now. Here's your balance that's due. Here's where you can find spiritware, all of those other pages that kind of get in the way. So the screenshot that you see on the screen right now is our website for the university's Library Resource Center. And we're going to go through it just a little bit, point out a few pieces that will be helpful to you as you are beginning your research on class materials especially. So if you'll notice, right underneath the splash header, you'll see some tabs, and those are for very common tasks that many students use the library to receive. You'll see a tab for searching for articles or finding books, that's print books, in the library. Borrowing books from other libraries, which we will talk about in a later session, researching topics, some help videos. There's that great guide to APA 7, as we were discussing just a little bit earlier. It doesn't, changing from say MLA or Chicago Manual of Style or Turabian doesn't change the writing style that you'll use for your research, but it does change the way that you have to notate where the information came from. And that tab gives you lots of resources to work with to find the proper way to be able to cite, to be able to put an in-text citation, some of the things maybe you have seen in the past or heard of. We'll go through all of those things as well. If I could point out one other thing on this page, it's also down here in the bottom right-hand corner. That is our chat feature. And that feature is there for instant help. If you discover that you are stuck or can't find a particular resource or not sure where to start, the chat box is a great place to be able to connect with one of our staff librarians. We have 5 staff librarians currently, and one of them is monitoring that chat anytime the big yellow box pops open. So if you do run into a problem or a snag or not sure what to do next, type your question into that chat box and let our staff give you some guidance and some answers to be able to help you move on to the next step of your research. So this screen grab is where I scrolled down just a little bit down the page from that very first image that I showed you. This is about a third of the way, maybe half of the way down the very first landing page of the library website. And what I tried to do was compact as much information and tools and sources here on one page as I possibly could. You have eBooks platforms over on the left-hand side of the screen. Our catalog that has some of our eBooks and all of our print books is right in the center where the green arrow is pointing. We have shortcuts to popular resources that a lot of students use in the bottom left. The top right has the library hours posted, and we make sure that as our hours change with different sessions that we change those hours as well. The pink arrow is pointing to what I think is really cool. In the very center of the screen, 3 separate search engines for scholarly journals and articles. You have the EBSCO host research databases, the Directory of Open Access Journals, and then ProQuest on the bottom. Right there for you, you can type in your keyword, title, author name, whatever information you have for what you're looking for, and it will take you directly to the results page for that platform. Very cool. And then down on the bottom right, the yellow arrow is pointing you to our subject database list. For more detailed information on a subject or to dig down a little deeper into the research for a subject, using a database that is designed around that subject like business or counseling or HR, whatever course you're studying for, getting into a subject database can often get you more results than using one of the big, gigantic databases that's more general in its search. So that list is down on the bottom right-hand side of the page. Now, we'll also mention that if you are on the main university website, you can also get to the library's website by clicking the small little library text-looking button that's circled in green on your screen right now. It's up above that orange set of blocks for the different functions on the main university website. But if you click that link, it takes you directly to our library website. So here's some of the things that we have. As you can imagine, in the library, we have lots of different resources. The one that most people associate with us, of course, is print books. And we have a ton of them. We have about 15,000 volumes that we carry in the library. We are unique among a lot of university libraries because we don't carry any fiction books at all. Every print book in our library is designed to match the curriculum or a particular course curriculum that's offered by Amberton University. So you won't find the, Harry Potters, and you won't find the Lord of the Rings type books, but you will find great books on leadership, on management, on counseling, on business, on economics, on human resources, on accounting. Many of the different programs that we have, we tried to diversify all of the print book holdings that we have in print. The way to be able to find those books when you come to the library is you can locate them using our catalog, and the green arrow is once again pointing to that on the screen grab. And you can search in the catalog to be able to find the books that we have in print. All of them are listed on the catalog, the online catalog, and we can help you find them. If you come to the library or if you need us to send them to you, we're happy to do that as well. The best way to do that is to make that request through the chat box. And one other quick note about the chat box. The chat box appears on every page of the library website. So even if you move away from this main page, the library chat box will follow you to whichever page you go to. So that way it's right there for you to click and get help right away. All right, we also have eBooks. We have greatly expanded our ebook holding over the last couple of years to the point now that we are at 250,000 books that are electronic and can be accessed 24/7, 365. Anytime you want to be able to see them. We have some of them in our catalog, our online catalog, and those are ebooks that we have purchased as a university. And so we keep those listed in our catalog. But as I mentioned earlier, where the blue arrow is pointing are our ebook platforms. And these are ebooks that we subscribe to through some vendors like EBSCO Host or ProQuest. And those platforms are searchable themselves and carry the vast majority of our ebooks. I will also mention to you real quickly that for those of you that are studying business or those of you that just need to find ebooks on a variety of sources, the EBSCO Host ebook holdings that we have greatly increased because we have upgraded some of the database subscriptions that we have. And that's what pushed us over the 250,000 titles amount. So we're very excited about that and very hopeful that everyone finds those as useful as possible. So with that in mind, the ebook platforms kind of look like this. There is this particular one is from EBSCO Host, and it looks like all the other databases from EBSCO Host. Every single one of their database search pages looks exactly like this. So it's always a good idea on EBSCO to search, to look at the green listing just above the search box that tells you what databases are being searched, because all the screens look alike. This particular one is the one for the ebook collection. Again, even though it looks exactly the same as the others, you could type in keywords here in the search box, a title, an author, subjects, any keywords that may help you be able to locate the book that you're looking for. So this is the one for EBSCO. Here's what the platform search engine looks like for ProQuest eBook Central, which is another huge collection of electronic books. And then finally, our newest one is Access 360. And this is what the search page looks like for it as well. So as I said, tons of them there for you to be able to find. Let's talk about the catalog real quickly since I brought it up, and we do have some print books and some ebooks in there. The catalog is the place where you can go and search for the books that we own as a library. And there is a search box right there at the top of the screen on the screen grab that you see there in front of you. This is the main page for our catalog. And you can type in keywords again, title, you can type in subjects, you can type in topics, any of those tools like you would normally do in a search. All of these function very much like Google searches. So you can utilize, as I said, keywords or authors or titles to be able to find the books that you're looking for. But let's say we did a sample search to kind of see what the results page would look like in the catalog. So I've typed in here that I wanted to see books that were electronic books that the university offers. And you'll notice in the first drop-down menu up in the top right corner, I chose collection so that I could look just at print books or just at electronic books or just, for example, um, audiovisual materials. All of those are different collections of things that we have in the library. And you see the listing of the titles kind of in alpha order at the moment, but you can sort them into different orders from there just by clicking on the little blue arrow next to title. But all of the results will pop up the same exact way and look very similar to that. But we figured out a way to be able to show you what the difference is between what is a electronic book and what is a print book, because there really wasn't a good way for us to show you that. And if you look over on the far right column of these results under holdings, you'll see that underneath the 1/1, which means we have one copy of the book, then the slash is to show you this is a different data point. The second number is how many we currently have in the library that are checked in. Underneath that, you'll see a text that says web links. That is the signal that that's an electronic book. Many of them now we have also changed to where they don't say 1/1 anymore, but they say 1/0 because we don't really look at checking out books, but the word web links will appear underneath them anyway. Here in this screen grab, these books are all print books. Well, how do I know that? Because when I go back to the holdings column over on the far right, there is no text there that says that these have a web link in them. Plus, if you'll notice up at the top where the collection drop-down menu has been selected for what I wanted to search, the collection name has changed to circulating book. That's what the name of the collection is for our print books. So, for example, if we have two copies of a particular print book, you'll see a 2 in that first column in the holdings column. But if one of them is checked out, it will say in the very next half of that column that there's only one currently checked in and available. Okay, so then we move on to the big kind of research friend that we have in the library, and that is databases. Databases are very helpful in doing research because they are nothing other than a collection of electronic books, of scholarly articles from peer-reviewed journals, and are incredibly helpful in being able to find the information that has been searched for before to be able to use some of that information to further your own research. Where do you find these databases? Well, the pink arrow is pointing to the big three search boxes that we have at the very beginning of the library website, which are very good general search engine databases. And then the yellow arrow is pointing to the subject databases that are a little more focused in their topics and in the information that they carry solely towards specific titles, or at least groups of information that are related. So how do you do this? Well, here's a basic rundown for how to be able to kind of get all of those pieces together to build your research. You gather your pieces first, just like you do when you go shopping at the grocery store to buy the ingredients for your dinner, or you purchase that puzzle. You get all the pieces together. That may be print books that you decide to use some print books. Maybe you decide to use some eBooks. And in addition to those, you want to use some scholarly articles. Your professor will typically clarify to you which types of resources they want you to use for each paper. But you begin by gathering all of those resources together, get all the information you can together. And in using databases, what you do is you choose a database like an EBSCO or ProQuest or we have another great one called Credo. They're all listed on the A to Z um, database list that I showed you in the bottom right corner. And you you may have to click through a couple of setup pages here and there, but then you typically get to some kind of search box like the one on the screen right here. Notice, please, in this EBSCO host page that this one says we will be searching Academic Search Complete. That's one of our best search databases in EBSCO and is very thorough and very broad and is a great one to start with. The search box on the very first page of the library website is programmed to search Academic Search Complete, as well as all of the other EBSCO databases as well. So you choose a database to start with. Then in the search box, you're going to kind of use some Google tools to type in those keywords for whatever it is that you're looking for. So maybe it's, if you're searching for how to be able to operate a business, you might want to put in a keyword like management or a keyword like business economics, those kinds of terms that are related to what you're searching for. The more keywords you enter here in the search box, the better and more focused your results will be toward the subject that you're looking for. And there's some tips and tools and tricks that we're going to learn as the session goes on about how to fine tune it even more so using a few special search techniques that I will show you in a later session. So I did a search real quickly just as a demonstration on the keyword management. And this is what the results page looks like in EBSCO. Again, you can use any database you chose, and I just chose to use EBSCO for this particular example. So what we are looking for here, what we have on the screen is a listing of as I said, eBooks, there's some magazines, there's some scholarly journals, there's sort of a mix of all kinds of things that have to do with the topic, the keyword I've typed in of management. And if you'll notice in the search results, right in the upper third of the screen, kind of over toward the top left corner, it says this is showing me the results 1 through 10 out of 15,025,745. Holy mackerel. How did I end up with that many search results? Well, I put in one keyword that's pretty general. If I'd put in more keywords, I would have had less results to look through. And again, let me toss in a little tip here. No one expects you to read 15 million articles. No professor is going to expect that. So what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to narrow those results down to a more manageable number, and then look at the ones that come back within that manageable number as your first 10, maybe 15, maybe even 20 results, but things you can read through thoroughly. Let's talk about how to do that. The first thing I recommend for people to do to try and get that number down is to look for the limiters and the filters menu within the results page. This is where it is in EBSCO, is over on the left. Sometimes it's at the top, sometimes it's on the right, but all of the databases have some type of limiter, some type of filter. I recommend students do these two things to start with once they've done maybe their initial, very first search with a keyword. And that's what the gold arrow is pointing to is I would select the buttons that the arrow is pointing to. For instance, under the word limit to in that menu for a limiter, I would select full text. The reason I would select full text is because some of these articles that you will see in your results are only the abstract of an article, and that's the first 150 words typically. It's not the entire article. And you want to be able to read the entire article so that you've got all the information that that researcher has discovered that might be helpful in your own research as you're getting new ideas and some of the facts that they found that you can borrow and place into your paper. Then the second box I recommend every student check is peer-reviewed or scholarly journals. It may be worded differently on other databases, but on EBSCO, it is peer-reviewed and in parentheses, scholarly journals. That way, you are only getting the scholarly level of research that your professors expect you to do as a graduate student. So peer-reviewed scholarly journals, make sure that box is checked and full text is checked. And then once we did that on the search, let's take a look at a live example of how that works. So jump over here and we're going to go to the website. And I'm going to stand up if you don't mind because it's easier for me to see my feet. All right, so here we are at the library webpage, as I mentioned. I'm going to scroll down. This box right here will appear for you on the web page until you have signed in and authenticated that you are an Amberton student. Then it will appear. This is the ProQuest box, just so you're aware of that. So I'm going to use the EBSCO since it's right here. And I'm going to type in, let's do business economics. I'll use that as a phrase and a keyword. This is the student portal. If you have never seen it before, it's allows you to access the databases. Databases aren't free. And so we protect them with the portal because we only want our students using them since we paid for the access to them. And even faculty have to log in from off campus. So that's a good example of what we do. All right. So here are our results. We still have 389,000 resources right now. This is not limited to journals yet. If you'll notice, even the first 2 or 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 results, 8, 9 of the first 10 results are ebooks, which is great. There's nothing wrong with that. And as I said, we have a massive collection of ebooks. But if your professor has specifically mentioned that you need to be searching for scholarly articles or peer-reviewed articles, we can't use an ebook if the assignment says we can't or has excluded them. So we move over here to the limiter. We're going to choose scholarly or peer-reviewed journals, and EBSCO automatically updates the results to now where everything is a scholarly or peer-reviewed journal. And then I'm going to click the other one, which is full text. And it automatically eliminates from the results any article listing that does not include the full text of the article. And now we have, if you'll notice the number, 80,502, which is far more manageable and probably gets us much closer to where we want to be. So from here, the research process becomes reading through these articles and looking for the ingredients that you want to borrow from that previous research, these articles as previous research, looking for, as I said, a quote or a statistic or a fact or a chart or a graph or a map, some kind of evidence essentially that you're going to borrow from these articles and these scholars and place into your paper with, and also tell the professor where that information came from since you and I didn't write it. And that's how you begin to build the point of your paper, what your paper is trying to say, what your research is trying to develop. Okay, let's take a look at one of these just so you can kind of see what it looks like. And I'm going to choose this one because it has business economics as a phrase I'm going to show you a trick for that again in that later session. But because it's using business economics in a phrase, I think I'm going to select this one just to take a look at it. So you have lots of tools once you get to the individual articles, like homepage. You have an HTML full text. I'm now over here on the left-hand side of the page. And the HTML just means you can continue to scroll down this web page and it will show you the entire full text of the article. That's great, quick way to read. However, if you're looking for visual things like a bar chart or a pie chart or a graph or something along that line, or page numbers also, those will not appear in the HTML full text. They do appear in the PDF full text if that is an option. Sometimes these articles will have both the HTML and PDF like this one does. Sometimes they will only have one or the other. So just be aware that those are the choices that you would be looking at and some of the criteria between the two. So if we do scroll down, you'll see there's some subject terms. And if you choose to, you can click on any of these subject terms because they are hyperlinked to be able to see what other articles EBSCO has on that particular subject. So since I searched business economics, as I look through this, here's managerial economics, which is close. I could go that route if I chose, or small business, or any of the others to be able to search a little bit more in the sort of the group of information that's there. Sometimes it'll have the exact subject that you're looking for, and it's very easy just to click on that exact subject hyperlink and be able to have a ton more resources to take a look at that are closer to your topic. So here's the abstract that I mentioned. Some of the ones that we eliminated using the filter in our search would only give you this much of the article, and that's it. You wouldn't have all of this, which is the whole article right there. And look at this fabulous chart. Oh my gosh, this is amazing. And another table. Those are great things to be able to cite in your papers if you have space for them. You also have the option when you use the HTML or the PDF for it to play a reading of the article for you. Let me do that real quickly just so you can see. It's thinking. Okay, it's taking too long. It's a mechanical reading from the software. But let me point out a couple of other quick things real quickly if I could. Over here on the right-hand side, you have another list of tools. You have the ability to save this particular article directly to your Google Drive. And remember, your Amberton account, the email account that you have, the logon credentials, all of those are set up also as a Google account. So you can use those Google tools like Google Drive and Google Docs and Google Slides and all of those cool tools that Google comes up with online. And Google Drive is sort of your online cloud database, sort of. It's not just for databases, but you can save all of your documents, all your spreadsheets, all of your slideshows, all of that kind of stuff in Google Drive. So you can click this and it will automatically save this article there. You can add it to another folder. You can print it out. You can email it to yourself or to a colleague or someone in the class. You can save it to come back to it later. This is the other one I wanted to be able to hit for you, and that is to cite this article. Let's say we've already read through this article and there's a lot of really good information that we want to borrow out of it, like those tables. When we click the Cite button, this box appears to show us a citation format. As you can see, there are lots of different citation formats. We, of course, are looking for APA 7th edition right here. And what we what EBSCO so kindly has done is it is showing you with the first line right here what goes at the top of your reference list. Because an APA, that what we used to call a bibliography, or in those of you who have used MLA in the past, what we call a works cited page, it's now called references. That's the only word at the beginning of the page for your final page of listing where you got all the information that you did not write. It is a page on its own. Even if you've got half a page left once you finish the body of your paper, you must start a new page to have your reference list. And at the top of the page, it just simply the word references, and everything, just like the whole rest of the paper, everything is double spaced all the way down the page. We'll see an example of that in a later session. But this information right here, including the DOI number, is what you would copy and paste into your reference list. Please notice that there's so much information here that it carries over to a second line. Notice that that second line is indented an inch. That may not transfer if you copy and paste this particular information into your reference list. So go back to that tab on the website, the guide for APA 7 that we have there, to kind of see what the final version of a reference list should look like. It'll be in alphabetical order by the author's last name, just like it's listed here. And all of those authors are listed in alpha order all the way down the page. Second, third, fourth, fifth line, anything that exceeds that first line of information is indented, but you'll see the final version there in the tab. All right, and that is citing. So let's take a step back here for just a moment. There's a couple of other tools I'd like to point out real quickly, if I might. If your professor, and some of them do, says to you, I only want scholarly journals and I only want them from the last 5 years. Oh my gosh, how do you do that? Come over with me to the limiter and filter column on the left. Once again, you see this publication date limiter. This is a slider. You can click and hold on either the from date or the to date slider and drag it. And notice you can move it as close as you want to. So from the last 2 years, last 5 years, you could probably get away with 2017, but to be safe, I went to 2018. And see, now we've cut it down to a quarter of the articles that we had a minute ago just by getting it to the last 5 years. There are other options over here on the left-hand side as well, including language. Not all of the articles, as you can see from this listing, not all of them are in English. Some of them are in other languages because they are published in other countries. If you are finding lots of non-English results and you don't know the language well enough to be able to utilize those, I would choose the box here next to English, or whatever your native language is. Of course, you can read the articles in that language if you know it, but that gives you the chance to be able to narrow it down to language. And there's other tools that are somewhat helpful as well. If you run into a problem with that, please let us know in the library and let us help you find your way around for that particular list. Okay. All right, so let's jump here. And we did our live example, so let's keep going. Okay, sometimes professors are trying to be helpful, and sometimes they will put a link in their Moodle courses that says, go to this article and read it and write a response. And the link that they have in the article does not route you through the student portal like we just did. Please be wary of that because you have to authenticate your enrollment as a student at Amberton to be able to get to the databases. And sometimes the professors leave off part of that URL that needs to be there to send you to the portal to then get you the access. So if that situation does arise, please contact us in the library. We'll be happy to alter that URL, send it back to you so it will send you through the right portal. And of course, as we showed you a minute ago, the portal looks like this. So where you put your credentials in to be able to get to databases and many of the other functions as a student at Amberton.
Thanks for joining us. Give us a shout if we can help you in any way.